morning, everyone. Today I will be presenting the movie On the Basis of Sex. This 2018 biographical drama highlights the early legal career of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her fight against gender discrimination in the U.S. legal system. Movie details: title On the Basis of Sex, production year 2018, directed by Mimi Leder. Industry represented: legal, judicial system, civil rights, depicted organization. The film features Moritz and Moritz, a fictional law firm, as well as the American Civil Liberties Union and the broader U.S. legal system. Synopsis: On the Basis of Sex tells the inspiring story of Ruth Bader Ginsburg as she navigates a male-dominated legal field. The movie follows her fight to overturn gender-based discrimination, focusing on her involvement in Moritz v. Commissioner, a case that challenged a tax law unfairly discriminating against men who were caregivers. This case became a key milestone in her lifelong pursuit of equal rights under the law. Workplace diversity and inclusivity and On the Basis of Sex. Our diverse culture represented authentically in the workplace setting. The movie is set in the legal and academic fields of the 1950s and 1970s, which were predominantly male and overwhelmingly white. On the Basis of Sex accurately portrays the gender disparities and discrimination of the time, but does not focus extensively on racial or ethnic diversity in the workplace. The film primarily highlights Ruth Bader Ginsburg's struggle as a woman in a male-dominated profession rather than addressing broader cultural diversity. How does the movie portray interactions between employees of different cultural backgrounds? Workplace interactions in the film are shaped largely by gender-based discrimination. Ruth encounters condescension, skepticism, and outright dismissal from male colleagues and superiors, reflecting the challenges women face in professional setting at that time. While the film powerfully depicts gender-based exclusion, it does not deeply explore interactions between employees of different racial ethnic backgrounds, as its primary focus is on gender inequality rather than broader workplace diversity. Does the workplace environment promote inclusivity, or does it reinforce exclusionary practices? The movie highlights the deeply ingrained exclusionary practices of mid-20th century workplaces, particularly in law firms and academia. Women, including Ruth, are often belittled, denied opportunities, and expected to conform to traditional gender roles. The legal profession, as depicted in the film, reinforces these exclusionary norms. However, Ruth's perseverance and legal advocacy challenge these practices, paving the way for a more inclusive legal system. The film ultimately serves as a testament to the slow but critical progress towards workplace inclusivity.
Which cultural groups are depicted in the movie? The movie On the Basis of Sex primarily focuses on gender and representation of women in law, particularly through the character of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The film showcases the cultural group of women fighting for gender equality in a male-dominated profession. Additionally, the movie portrays the legal profession as a whole, which often holds inherent biases, particularly towards women and their roles in the workplace. There is also a depiction of Jewish American culture, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg is portrayed as a Jewish woman. Are these groups accurately represented without exaggeration or stereotyping? Yes. The film generally avoids exaggeration or stereotyping of these groups. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's character is portrayed as a strong, intelligent, and determined, rather than relying on stereotypical notions of women in the workplace. Her Jewish background is referenced, but not in a way that feels exaggerated or plays into common stereotypes. The portrayal of the legal profession and its gender dynamics is also shown realistically, with a focus on the systematic barriers women face in the 1950s and 1960s. Does the movie showcase the value of diverse perspective in decision making? Yes, the movie emphasizes the value of diverse perspective, particularly in decision making. The central plot revolves around Ruth Bader Ginsburg challenging the legal status quo, which was based on the traditional and often discriminatory views of men. Through her legal battle, the film demonstrates how diverse perspectives, especially those from marginalized groups, can bring about necessary and transformative change. Ginsburg's approach to law also highlights the importance of looking at issues from a more inclusive and holistic perspective. Are there instances of unconscious or explicit bias in character portrayals? Yes, there are instances of both unconscious and explicit bias portrayed in the film. Many of the male characters in the movie display an implicit bias toward Ruth, especially when they underestimate her abilities based on her gender. Ruth faces overt gender-based discrimination, especially in the early stages of her career, where men, including colleagues and judges, dismiss her ideas and contribution because of her sex. This reflects the systematic bias present in the society at the time. Does the movie challenge or reinforce workplace stereotypes? The movie challenges workplace stereotypes, particularly those about gender roles in the professional world. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is depicted as challenging these stereotypes by defying the expectations placed on women, proving that women can succeed in male-dominated fields like law. The film also highlights how gender-based stereotypes shape people's perception of her abilities, which she ultimately worked to overcome, making her case a significant challenge to the status quo. How are gender, race, ethnicity, and other cultural identities portrayed? Gender is the most prominent cultural identity portrayed in the film, with a focus on Ruth Bader Ginsburg's struggles as a woman in a predominantly male legal world. The movie highlights the systematic sexism she faced and how it shaped her career and legal battles. Ethnicity is also touched upon, as Ruth is depicted as a Jewish woman, but her ethnicity doesn't play a major role in the narrative outside of providing additional depth to her character. The film emphasizes Ruth's intelligence, perseverance, and ability to challenge the norms of her time, portraying her cultural identity as an asset rather than a hindrance. The film doesn't heavily explore race, but it does reflect broader themes of discrimination and the importance of challenging societal biases.
Hi, I am Joshua Boyos, DSTM 3A. So I am here to present and to discuss about my answer about the movie review, which the title is On the Basis of Sex. So I am here to present my answer about the power dynamics in leadership and conflict resolution and cultural awareness. So first, let's go to first question, the power dynamic in leadership. So, is leadership diverse and inclusive? So, as what I've seen in the movie, the leadership diverse and inclusive is not visible, since they are more giving bias about men. They are putting men as the inferior, especially in the workplace. And including Ruth Bader Ginsburg are largely included from leadership rules and are not given equal opportunity to advance. And in the film highlights how the legal system was designed to favor men particularly in positions of power. Then second question is, how are underrepresented groups positioned in the hierarchy of the workplace? So women are significantly underrepresented in legal and academic leadership position. They are often treated as inferior, as seen when Ruth and other famous students at Harvard Law are questioned about why they took a man's place. So, the legal system also enforces gender bias discrimination, making it difficult for women to advance in their careers. Third is, does the film show equitable opportunities for career growth among employees? So in the movie, no. Depicts a workplace environment where women have limited opportunities for career advancement. Ruth, despite being highly qualified, struggles to find a law firm that will hire her simply because she is a woman. The movie highlights the systematic barriers that prevented women from rising in their profession during that time period. So let's go to the conflict resolution and cultural awareness. First question is, how does the workplace address conflicts involving cultural misunderstandings? So the movie focuses more on gender discriminations than cultural misunderstandings. Conflicts arise when Ruth challenges the legal system gender bias, but these issues are often dismissed by male colleagues and judges. The workplace does not proactively address discrimination, but instead reinforces it through outdated laws and societal expectations. And second question is, are there moments where cultural competence training or initiative are highlighted? No. The movie does not show cultural competence during our diversity initiatives. Instead, it highlights the personal struggles of Ruth and other women fighting against systematic discrimination. The lack of such initiatives reflects the reality of the time period, where gender bias was deeply embedded in workplace culture. And for last question, for the conflict resolution cultural awareness, is our conflict resolved in a way that promotes respect and inclusivity? By the end of the film, Ruth successfully argues her case, challenging gender bias discrimination in the law. While this marks a turning point, the resolution is not immediate or fully inclusive. The movie shows that systematic change requires persistence, legal battles, and societal shifts. It promotes respect and inclusivity by demonstrating the importance of legal advocacy and dismantling discrimination. So in the movie of On the Basis of Sex, it shows and reflects the gender discrimination or gender bias discrimination. But as the rule, the main character of the movie, which is Ruth, she is fighting for her right, even though that gender bias discrimination is visible in their community, or at the time period, she conquered and fight about the rights because they deserve to be treated equally and to have a societal shift where men and women are equally treated, especially in their chosen field. So that would be all. Thank you.
So next is the impact on audience perception. So the first question is, does the movie positively or negatively influence perceptions of workplace diversity? So the film has a strong positive impact on perceptions of workplace diversity, especially gender. From the movie, Ruth, resilience, and legal victories inspire audiences to view gender equality in the workplace as not just necessary but a fundamental right. The film makes it clear that workplace discrimination based on gender harms not only the individual but the workplace as a whole, fostering an environment of inequality and missed potential. Ruth's victories were a turning point in challenging gender bias in the workplace and promoting diversity. After all, a diverse workplace benefits from the varied perspectives that individuals from all backgrounds bring. Then the second question is, are there lessons that real companies can take from the movie to improve DEI initiatives? So there are several lessons that modern companies can take from Ruth's story. First, the importance of addressing gender stereotypes head-on. So Ruth's case highlights how deeply rooted and harmful stereotypes can be, and it's essential for companies today to actively challenge these outdated beliefs. Another lesson is the necessity of having a clear, inclusive HR policies. So the companies must ensure that their policies don't just met the legal standards but also foster an inclusive environment where all the employees have equal opportunities to succeed. And lastly, the movie demonstrates the power of supporting employees in their fight for equality. So in the movie, Ruth didn't win her case alone. She had the support of her husband and her colleagues and a legal team that believe in fairness. So the companies can learn the importance of standing by employees who challenge discriminatory practices and creating a culture where such challenges are encouraged and supported. And the third is, does the portrayal align with real world workplace diversity efforts? So, Ruth's fight in the movie aligns closely with the real world workplace diversity efforts that we see today. For instance, many companies now have DEI initiatives that promote equal opportunity for women, underrepresented minorities, and other marginalized groups. So, Ruth's victory lead to groundbreaking legal changes that continue to influence workplace policies. Laws like Title IX and the Equal Pay Act, which were directly influenced by Ruth Works, have helped shape modern corporate diversity practices. So today, companies must not only comply with the legal standards but actively manage or engage in practices that foster a fair, an inclusive, and a diverse workplace for everyone.
Good day, everyone. I am May Grace Morales, and today we will be talking about the ethical practices and employer relation. The first is, does a film addresses workplace discrimination or microaggression? There were no HR policies and DEI efforts in the place, which wasn't surprising given the time period. Watching the film, I realized how unregulated workplace equality was back then. No one was actively working to promote diversity or to ensure fair treatment. Women were simply expected to accept the system as it was. However, what stood out to me was how Ruth's persistence and legal arguments challenged those outdated norms. Her flight wasn't just about one case. It was about changing the entire system, laying the groundwork for future workplace protection and diversity initiatives. And the last is, how does the company in the film handle issue related to cultural differences? As I watched the film, the workplace shown Harvard law firms, and the courtroom were predominantly filled with white men, reinforcing how exclusive the spaces were. The focus was entirely gender discrimination, and while that was powerful, I couldn't help but think about how many other barriers existed for people of different races and backgrounds. The resistance to change was evident, but Ruth's work proved that progress was possible even in institutions were built to exclude.
And now you are now here to the recommendation part of the movie review. Let's start first on the first suggestion that we can give when it comes to the cultural diversity improvement. The film could enhance cultural diversity by incorporating intersectional perspectives, showcasing how race, class, and other identities intersect with gender discrimination. Featuring diverse characters from marginalized backgrounds would create a more inclusive and relatable narrative. Next, is the second suggestion that we can give when it comes to the best practices for companies. Though the film already highlights merit based opportunities, mentorship, and challenging systemic biases, however, these companies should adopt unbiased hiring practices, implement mentorship programs for underrepresented employees, and ensure policies support equal opportunities and work and life balance. Next is the last or the third one. The third suggestion for inclusive workplace culture is that organizations should conduct diversity training, enforce anti discrimination policies, and establish employee resource groups. Encouraging open dialogue, seeking diverse perspectives in leadership, and fostering inclusive decision making will help build a more equitable workplace. And to sum it all up, or to conclude, on the basis of sex rates, we rate it as fair in cultural sensitivity because it effectively highlights gender discrimination but lacks broader representation of diverse backgrounds, particularly in terms of race and socioeconomic status. While it accurately portrays the legal and workplace struggles women faced in the year 1970, its focuses remains primarily on a privileged perspective, missing the opportunity to address intersectional challenges. The film does, however, succeed in emphasizing the importance of challenging systemic biases and advocating for equal opportunities. Despite its limitations in depicting a more diverse range of workplace experiences, it remains an inspiring and impactful story that enforces the ongoing need for inclusivity, fair policies, and representation in professional environments. And that ends our presentation about movie review with the title On the Basis of Sex. Thank you so much for sparing your time listening to our presentation. Goodbye. And that ends our movie review presentation reflecting the movie entitled On the Basis of Sex. Thank you very much for sparing your time listening to our presentation. Once again, thank you and goodbye.